I'd like to hear your assessment of the buildup of Russian troops in Syria. And secondly, why not just get the job done, send in ground troops, and get rid of ISIS just more quickly than it's happening?
On the second question, I agree with President Obama and with our other coalition partners that we've seen this before. We cannot do this simply by Western ground power. There has to be indigenous forces, people on the ground who are willing to carry the bulk of that fight and secure their own territory on an ongoing basis. That's why so much of our efforts are in Afghanistan. We're about building up their armed forces and their police and security agencies. That's why we are in the north of Iraq. We were actually working with very closely and helping to train people who are actually effectively fighting ISIS in those regions. The fact that there remains a lack of that capacity is obviously a significant challenge, but in the meantime, it is important that we continue the air campaign against ISIS and make sure that they are put under pressure and not able to spend all of their time planning attacks against us in Canada and the rest of the West. Look, in terms of Russian buildup in Syria, what can I say? The Russian government remains the Russian government under Mr. Putin remains a government that complicates in dangerous and unhelpful ways security situations all over the world. This is yet another example. As I've always said, there has got to be some kind of political settlement in Syria that involves moderate elements of both sides, but simply sending military support into Assad is not, in our judgment, helpful. But it's very consistent. We see further buildup by Mr. Putin in Ukraine, and that is why we have been continuing to warn the world about Mr. Putin's intentions and why we will continue to take tough action against the Russian regime.